Albert Einstein. He would one day become the greatest mind of the modern age, the man whose theories would reshape how we see the universe itself. But before the fame, before the Nobel Prize, before the wild white hair, Albert Einstein was just a quiet kid from Germany that nobody wanted. Teachers called him lazy. They said he was distracted, defiant, that something was fundamentally wrong with him. He hated rote memorization and rigid thinking that crushed curiosity instead of sparking it. At 15, he couldn't take it anymore. He left German schools entirely, chasing something most people couldn't even see. A year later, he applied to the Swiss Federal Polytechnic, but they rejected him. His math was exceptional, brilliant even, but his languages and history were terrible. So he waited and tried again. When he finally got in and graduated, he sent letter after letter to universities and schools, begging for any position, even as a teacher, even as an assistant. Everyone said no. Every single door closed. He felt invisible, a young man with ideas burning inside him that nobody wanted to listen to. So he took a job as a clerk at the Swiss Patent Office in Bern. During the day, he examined other people's inventions. At night, he imagined chasing beams of light through the sky. In 1907, the University of Bern rejected his application for a teaching position. Some thought his theories were too strange, too much like art instead of real physics. Others said he didn't follow proper academic protocol. He was a man destined to change science, held back by bureaucracy. But Einstein never stopped thinking. He couldn't stop. In 1905, from that little desk at the patent office, he published 4 papers that shook everything. Light as energy packets, atoms in motion, special relativity, E equals mc squared. At first, almost nobody understood him. Years later, even as his name spread, one of his papers was rejected in peer review, the only time it happened. The editor had no idea he was turning down Albert Einstein. His life was built on rejection and closed doors, but every no became fuel. Every failure pushed him closer to the truth. If stories like this pull you in, make sure you subscribe. There are many more you've never heard. Nikola Tesla. "The present is theirs," he said. "The future for which I really worked is mine." And he was right. But when Tesla said those words, the world had already turned away from him. Born in 1856 in Smiljan, Tesla grew up surrounded by imagination and invention. His father was a priest. His mother was an inventor at heart, building simple machines with her own hands. From her, he inherited a mind that could see electricity dancing through the air before the world even understood what electricity was. As a student, he could perform complex calculus in his head without writing anything down. But he never finished university. He dropped out. He gambled. He got sick. And yet his obsession never left him, burning inside him constantly. In 1884, he arrived in America with one suitcase and a head full of ideas that nobody wanted to hear. He worked for Thomas Edison, the man the world already called a genius. Edison promised him a $50,000 reward for his work. Tesla worked hard, believing in the promise. Then Edison laughed at him and refused to pay. Tesla quit the next day. He tried again with his own company, but his investors stole his patents and left him completely broke. He dug ditches for $2 a day just to eat. Even digging in the dirt, his mind was still working above the clouds, still inventing. He built the first alternating current motor, the system that would eventually power the entire modern world. Westinghouse bought his patents, and for one moment, Tesla finally had recognition. Then came the war of currents. Edison called his electricity dangerous. Edison electrocuted animals in public to prove how dangerous AC power was. But history chose differently. Tesla's system won. It lit the Chicago World's Fair. It brought power to Niagara Falls. His dream was far from over. He wanted to build Wardenclyffe Tower, a global wireless network that would transmit energy through the air itself, free for everyone. J.P. Morgan funded it at first, but when Tesla revealed his plan to make electricity free, Morgan refused to give him another cent. The dream died unfinished. As the years passed, his ideas became too wild for investors. Wireless energy, death rays, flying machines. Some called him a prophet, most called him insane. He spent his final years alone in New York hotels feeding pigeons, living on milk and honey. While the world ran on his inventions every single day, they stole his ideas. They ignored his warnings. They mocked his vision. He was a man ahead of his time. Rejected by the present, vindicated by the future he built but would never see. And it only gets wilder from here. Subscribe if you want to keep uncovering the truths history tried to bury. Thomas Edison. Thomas Edison wasn't supposed to become anything at all. Teachers said he was too stupid to learn, that his mind couldn't handle education. He was restless, constantly asking questions that teachers couldn't answer or didn't want to answer. His mother pulled him out of school and taught him herself, a decision that changed everything. Young Edison was endlessly curious. He spent his childhood in the basement experimenting with chemicals, nearly burning the whole house down. He didn't learn by listening to lectures. He learned by doing, by breaking things, by failing and trying again. When a childhood illness left him almost completely deaf, he did something remarkable. He turned it into an advantage. Silence helped him concentrate, he said later, but the world still rejected him. His first invention, an electric vote recorder, was rejected immediately by Congress. Lawmakers said it was too efficient. They preferred slower voting systems they could manipulate. Edison was crushed by that rejection, but it taught him something he'd never forget. Only build what the world actually needs. He was fired from his early jobs for being unproductive. He was broke, constantly skipping meals to buy materials for experiments. When he finally created the incandescent light bulb, it didn't happen in a flash of genius. He tested over 10,000 materials, carbonized cotton, cardboard, even human hair. Over 10,000 failures before he found one that worked. "I have not failed," he said famously. "I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." Even after he succeeded, rejection followed him everywhere. During the War of Currents, his direct current system was destroyed by Tesla's alternating current. Public opinion turned against him. Investors took over his company. The name Edison, once a symbol of progress, was nearly forgotten. Then, in 1914, disaster. A massive fire destroyed his entire laboratory. Years of research, all gone in one night. When his son found him watching the flames, Edison said calmly, "Go get your mother. She'll never see a fire like this again." The next morning, at 67 years old, he went back to work. He started again from nothing. Through ridicule and loss and failure, Edison proved that genius isn't about never failing. It's about never, ever stopping. If you're enjoying this, subscribe. The next story might be even more unbelievable. Isaac Newton. Isaac Newton was born on January 4th, 1643 in Woolsthorpe, a small village in England where nobody expected anything from anybody. He came into the world premature, so small that people thought he wouldn't survive the first night. His father had died before he was even born. When Newton was only 3 years old, his mother abandoned him to remarry, leaving him behind with relatives. That wound never healed. He grew up withdrawn, silent, lost inside his own thoughts constantly. Teachers said he was slow and distracted. Nobody thought he was talented. Nobody saw what was happening inside his mind. But behind that silence was a genius building entire worlds in his head. His mother wanted him to be a farmer, to work the fields. But Newton had no interest in fields. He wanted to understand the invisible forces that moved everything, that made the world work. Eventually he was sent to Cambridge, and that's where his real journey began. Then came the Great Plague of 1665. The university closed. Newton returned home, isolated and completely alone. And it was in that isolation, in that loneliness and silence, that his genius awakened completely. In just 2 years alone in Woolsthorpe, he discovered the laws of motion. He discovered gravity. He discovered the nature of light, all before his 25th birthday. But when he shared his discoveries with the world did not applaud. His paper on light and colour was harshly rejected. Critics, including the famous scientist Robert Hooke, accused him of arrogance and error. Humiliated and deeply hurt, Newton withdrew from public life completely. For years he refused to publish anything. When he finally returned, he published Principia Mathematica, one of the greatest scientific works in history. It changed everything. But success did not bring him peace. Newton's life was filled with conflict. He fought with rivals, obsessed with proving his own superiority. He became isolated again, not by the world, but by his own mind. Behind his fame was a secret universe only he explored. He spent decades studying alchemy and biblical prophecy, convinced science and faith were one. He rejected official church doctrine, believing truth was hidden beneath centuries of corruption. Those writings stayed hidden for hundreds of years. He also struggled with his own mind, sinking into depression or working endlessly without sleep. Some believe mercury from his experiments poisoned him. But even through darkness and rejection, Newton never stopped searching for truth. If this kind of truth matters to you, subscribe. There's much more coming. Charles Darwin. Charles Darwin was born on February 12th, 1809 in Shrewsbury, England, into a wealthy family where he was the fifth of 6 children. From a very early age, Darwin was more interested in collecting beetles and studying plants than following his father's dream of making him a doctor or a clergyman. He wasn't a prodigy. He wasn't a particularly disciplined student either. But his endless curiosity about nature set him apart from everyone else. At 22 years old, his entire life changed forever. He joined the voyage of the HMS Beagle as a naturalist, and this journey would last 5 long years across the world. What began as an adventure quickly became a test of endurance and survival. Darwin battled severe seasickness constantly. He fought anxiety and isolation and loneliness. Yet through all the sickness and solitude, he observed patterns that nobody else had ever noticed. Fossils of extinct animals resembled living ones. Birds and tortoises on different islands had variations, small but significant differences. Nature, he realized, wasn't fixed and unchanging. It was changing. It was evolving. When he returned to England in 1836, he was a different man than the one who left. Quietly in his notebooks, he began piecing together a revolutionary idea. All species, including humans, evolved through a process he called natural selection. Life on Earth had descended from common ancestors, but to say it aloud was unthinkable. To challenge creation itself meant confronting religion and academia and the very foundation of human belief. So Darwin waited. For more than 20 years, he refined his theory in complete silence. He suffered chronic illness, severe pain, trembling, panic attacks. He saw more than 20 doctors, but none could explain what was wrong. His real torment wasn't physical, though. It was the fear of rejection, the fear of unleashing an idea that could divide the world. In 1851, tragedy struck deeply. His 10-year-old daughter Annie, the child he loved most, died after months of illness. Her death shattered him completely. Whatever remained of his faith in God died with her. Darwin, once a devout believer, could no longer see divine mercy in the natural world. He saw only struggle and suffering, yet even in that despair he kept working. In 1859, On the Origin of Species was published. The world was stunned. Many called him a heretic. Others called him a genius. His ideas were debated in churches and classrooms and scientific halls across the world. The backlash deepened his anxiety, but Darwin did not fight back. He simply let the evidence speak for itself. His health continued to decline, but his conviction never faltered. He showed that life is not static and unchanging. Life evolves, it adapts, it transforms through struggle and competition. His theory rewrote humanity's place in the universe and changed science forever. He faced rejection from the world and powerful institutions that didn't want to hear what he had to say. Yet he never stopped searching for truth, because sometimes the courage to question everything is exactly what changes the world. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe.